Hello, I want to tell you a little bit about my financial history, how I progressed, and what my experiences were. I come from a middle class family. My dad was a government employee, and my mom was a stay at home mom. I was financially dependent on them, and my dad wasn't exactly generous with money, so I decided to start working when I was 16. My first job was at McDonald's, where they hired me as a hostess, but in reality, I was a janitor. I swept, mopped, and cleaned tables, and they motivated me with pins that you wore around your neck. The only thing they signified was that you were the person most gullible who worked there, because I was the one who left everything just to earn a pin. From there, I had 8 jobs. The truth is, it was always easy for me to get a job because I am an honest, responsible person who is committed and seeks to always do things well. So I never had any problems finding work, but I always had the same experiences. Limited money, always exchanging time for money, and not doing something I enjoyed. I didn't dislike it, but they were mostly administrative jobs. And in this, I realized that no matter how hard I worked, I would always end up earning the same, and my salary was never equal to my dreams. They had nothing in common. So I lived with that anger, that frustration, because I exchanged my time for money and the money was never enough. Therefore, it meant that my time wasn't valuable. And, well, I've had many jobs that I'm grateful for because I learned a lot from them. They made me stronger. I've also started businesses. I had a telephone distributorship. I had a boutique. Obviously, I went bankrupt in both because I didn't know how things were done. Well, I tried that way with the Virgie method that many know I can already handle skillfully. So when I realized all this, when I started to reflect that there was no way for me to grow and to get out of the limitation, no matter how much effort I put in and how hard I worked, I was never going to become the owner of where I worked. So one day, around 30 years old, I decided to dive into being independent. I became a real estate salesperson. Step by step, I prepared myself. I kept learning about many things I needed to know. The truth is that I had some very good times, some not so good times. Everyone knows who works in this. The money comes intermittently. Sometimes it comes in large amounts and it takes a long time to return. That helped me become a good administrator, but always with this energy of scarcity, difficulty, fear that another great opportunity may not come again. However, the truth is that I put in a lot of effort, worked a lot, and found great opportunities. The last opportunity I found was to become a representative for 12 companies that were located outside of my city, where I was in charge of recovering homes, doing the evictions, rehabilitation, the sale, and everything that had to do with credit procedures. And the truth is, I was doing very well. There were really good seasons. There were seasons where there was no work at all, but all this money from the recovered housing in the end was not nice money, because it was money that came through the pain of others. And this also made me feel guilty. It made me feel ashamed. However, it was abundant money. It was still intermittent, but it was plentiful. And then, well, this allowed me to progress. Throughout all this time in tandem, I always invested a large part of my salary when I was employed or when I was self-employed. I always invested large amounts of money, taking as a reference what I earned from courses, workshops, and books. I always really wanted to change, to modify my life. I always did it from a place of rejection, not longing, and that's why it was so hard for me to find the right paths. I mean, there were many moments when things were going really well for me, but it was with fatigue, difficulty, intermittently, with fear, worry, stress, and so on. Nothing pleasant. So I began that search, always reading, always trying to understand, always trying to apply. Still, well, obviously it's progressive as your consciousness develops. My consciousness was increasing because unfortunately, through all the hardships I went through the great sorrows and great challenges life put in my path. Before I had kids, I gave myself permission many times to fail, not be able to, doubt, give up, because many times I wasn't motivated enough for me. However, once I had kids, they gave me great strength, great motivation, and they made me walk the high wire, jump, that is, overcome my fears, believe. try taking risks because it was no longer optional for them. I've shared this before, like during the pandemic. Well, I was working with recovered housing. A lot of government agencies shut down, so the possibility of income for me was gone. I had already managed to buy myself. I had 2 properties, but I couldn't feed my children bricks. I couldn't sell them because everything was shut down at the time. They weren't recovery homes, so I found myself in a really tight situation where I had no cash flow. And well, like I've shared before, I figured it out somehow. And it was then, throughout this search. One day I asked myself a question. Why? Why if I like this so much? Why? If I consider myself good, right? Why? Yes, I know I've learned so much already because I never ever stopped studying. Why can't I make a living from this? Why not? And then the answer was because if you did, you'd be very happy. And you think you don't deserve happiness. That planted many seeds for me because I realized I needed to seek my own happiness. And the only way I could be happy to earn money in a way that brought me joy was to work in what I loved most, giving consultations and courses. That was my wildest, most outlandish dream. Being able to do what I do today was like dreaming of becoming an artist, like dreaming of being Shakira for me. So when I got that response, believing I didn't deserve to be happy despite having already pursued a career focused on study, I then resolved to be happy despite all the setbacks. That is, even in the midst of having no money, being in a pandemic, dealing with uncertainty, fear, and so on. So I sought professional resolution through a loan to move forward. And I knew, because I had already discovered it along the way, that the best way to achieve what you want is to help other people achieve it too. And then I decided to start giving money empowerment sessions. I already started doing it on Zoom for free in the middle of the pandemic, and suddenly friends started to join, friends of my friends, and there started to be a lot of people until one day Zoom didn't work, and then I was forced to open YouTube to be able to meet all the people who were waiting for me. I didn't charge anything for it, but I did it with a lot of happiness, but also with a lot of fear, with nerves, with insecurity, because they were my first attempts. One day, on August the 19th, I opened the YouTube channel, and although as many have seen, my first video was awful, terrible. I felt very proud because I overcame my fears, because I dared, because I could, because the whole digital issue also caused a lot of difficulty for me, and so that represented a great challenge. I triumphed and felt immensely happy. And that's why from that point on I began to broadcast twice a week, because it was like my balm where I could find happiness in sharing everything I had discovered over time. Obviously all based on the method Yuen, which is the tool that even today I still consider the most efficient of all that I know and well. That's when I realized that money can be earned in a nice way. It can be earned by helping other people. I realized that yes, life is incredibly abundant. You really never have to work for money. You have to work for other things, to believe, to have conviction, to have love, to have passion, to want to share, to want to contribute, to genuinely want to help other people. There I was generating the value that I needed to create my own abundance. I know that abundance is everywhere, because if it wasn't, then it wouldn't be abundance. Abundance is everywhere. However, we always focus on the small point of lack, and that's where we center all our attention. And if to this we add that we believe we have no power, that it's not up to us, and a lot of misinformation, perception, interpretation about money and finances, obviously it cancels out the possibilities of achieving. If you're interested in learning more about this, about the path I have traveled, we have the course on abundance and prosperity. I'm not going to sell you a magic button. I'm not going to tell you that you're going to win the lottery. I'm not going to perform a strengthening so that one day your bag is filled with money. I'm going to strengthen, of course, and teach you what this path of abundance and prosperity is so that you can walk it. But you have to walk it. No one can walk it for you. And this will imply that you overcome many things that stop you today, and that have to do with your own limiting beliefs about yourself and life in general. I'll be very happy to share with this if it resonates with you. Thank you.